So, do you really know what's being done to protect your law firm from a cybersecurity perspective? Do you really know what technologies are in place? What proof do you have? Have you asked your IT provider or your IT team lately? A lot of law firms don't, and I get it. We're business owners, me and Dave, and Vinny's not here, but we understand, right? You have to delegate tasks to people in business, and you have to trust that they're gonna get it done. But at the end of the day, shouldn't you have some checks and balances in place for something so critical to your business? And I'm not exaggerating that this may be the second or first most important thing to your business. I would say cash is king. Everybody knows that cash is king. But think about it. This is something that could literally put you out of commission and maybe out of business and maybe out of the practice of law. And so shouldn't there be some checks and balances on it? Do you not have checks and balances and see maybe cash flow reports and maybe financials? So don't worry though, me and Dave are going to help you, so you can relax. You don't have to come up with the questions yourself. But before we get to that, this is No Law Firm Left Behind, and I'm Jim Gast and Dave Myers there. Dave, hi.
How you doing?
We're here to help your law firm be more competitive, help your staff and attorneys be more productive, ultimately so you can get and keep more of your clients. So, we're here every Tuesday to help. Today we're going to talk about this, Dave. Do you yourself, you're a security professional, right? This is
Right.
what you do. Just so everyone knows, Dave is a data risk and compliance consultant and attorney, and practices regularly for us at SpliceNet and is highly technical. So, if you're going to listen to anybody, you got to listen to that guy right there. Dave, is it no less important than cash?
So let's actually back up a step and talk about, and I'm going to get Jim's going to go to sleep on this one, but any of my attorneys that are listening will understand this. Let's go back to the rules of ethics, okay? The rules of legal ethics require that attorneys care about this. It's not optional. Even if it's delegated, it is ultimately your responsibility, and failure to take this with a certain level, with an adequate level of seriousness, can result in disciplinary action. So it's not just something that you should, as a good business owner, be concerned with. It's something that's required under the rules of ethics. So you have to concern yourself with security. And I will tell you that cash is king in general for all businesses, but within the legal community, there is also reputation. And one of the things that's unique about the legal profession is that so much of a business's reputation is hinged to an individual's reputation. And so if, for example, in another business, if something happens and it goes out of business and the owners go over here and form another business doing something different, a lot of times some of that stuff won't follow them reputation-wise. In the practice of law, everything hinges on that person. So if you suffer a breach and it's found that you were just like head in the sand and that's what happened, you can dissolve that firm and go somewhere else. But I guarantee you that is going to follow you wherever you go to. So it's something that, while you're never going to completely prevent all security incidents, you have to take steps. You have to be informed. And I think that's really, Jim, what you're going for here. It's not that an attorney needs to become an expert on cybersecurity. It's that, are you doing any kind of due diligence to make sure that you're at least taking reasonable steps to protect the data that you hold?
Dave, you know as well as I do that we do law firm cybersecurity assessments all the time, right? And as a technology company, we do them first and foremost from a technology perspective, and Dave's been doing them from a risk perspective. So we look at both sides of the equation. And how many times have we heard an attorney, when we ask the question, so talk to us about your cybersecurity, our IT guys have got that taken care of. You can't put your head in the sand.
Correct.
It's not allowed, and it's definitely a ethical violation in almost every state. There have been opinions and opinions on it. By the way, this is not a sleeper for me, Dave. This is what we need to do our jobs and to protect our law firms, is to help them understand these things.
It's absolutely right.
But I know that every professional liability carrier out there, when a law firm it goes where they've got to check a box on cybersecurity.
Oh, they got to check. I'll tell you, it's going to remain. I'm not going to name any names of any E&O carriers. Okay.
Yeah.
But I saw one recently that I had seen in prior years, and it was very reasonable. The questions that were being asked, and then I saw what their updated cybersecurity writer questionnaire was, and I was like, "Wow,
Yeah,
okay, really?" And it's like literally, if you don't have these things, you are not eligible. We will not cover you. And I will tell you, the bulk of the firms we go into, they don't have it. No. They don't.
And we have to work with some of our clients to catch them up. I mean, honestly, we're still working with clients to catch them up in a lot of places, and it's
always a moving target too, because you'll get a new set of updates, and everything that we were compliant with a year ago. All right, now we got a whole new laundry list of things.
Yeah. So let's get to it, Dave. I mean, we know the importance of it. Let's kind of talk about these 5 questions.
Yeah,
and there's a whole lot more.
These are just 5 really critical things that if you're not asking about these things, you're probably not asking about much at all, and you're probably doing something right. You're probably not following up.
I've got, and I'll post these as well as some other ones to help you as a law firm professional, whether you're the managing partner or legal administrator, heck, even the IT guy. If you're the IT director, IT manager, or just, you should take these questions and go to the partnership, because who's next going to get choked if something goes bad, right? I've seen it time and time again. So, Dave, tell me why antivirus is, first off, the question should be, what are we using other than just antivirus to protect our network, right? That's the question. Now, Dave, good question. I think that's a very foundational question, because first off, ask what we're using for antivirus, and then get some information on it, because there's a lot of crap out there. But Dave, why is that an important question?
So it's because nowadays, 5 years ago, even 10 years ago, if you had antivirus, you had probably the most important thing that you could have to keep yourself safe.
It was about the only thing.
And it was critical. And, the argument was, what's the best antivirus? Anymore that, we have to point out to people that no single defense, no single protection is good enough. Even altogether, it's not 100%. But it's, whether you want to call it the, layering or Swiss cheese or whatever analogy you want to make. And there are several that float out there. But it's the idea that you have to layer different items on top of each other, because this technology might protect you from something that this one doesn't.
Yep.
And so the
house analogy we used a couple of weeks ago. Let's take the house analogy. What is antivirus to a house compared to a house from an industry perspective? So if you ask me, antivirus is just the door lock. That's really all it is. Can it be picked? Yeah. Are there other ways into the house? You bet there is, but it is the basic, right? The only thing that you've got, if nothing else, is antivirus, and it's definitely not enough. Let's consider the internet a high crime neighborhood. Okay. It isn't just, the nice suburban streets, right? I mean, it is a high crime neighborhood where people are trying to do crazy stuff all over the place. And all you have is just a little door lock, it's not enough. It used to be, but it's not anymore.
Right. So as criminals have gotten more and more sophisticated, they have found ways around antivirus. So you've got to have other stuff in place.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a whole slew of different technologies that are out there. So, let's just talk about things like, web filtering. Um, do you have a system in place that blocks you from going to dangerous sites in the first place?
Yeah.
Thus making the need for the antivirus unnecessary. So it's the idea that if you layer these things, so you have web filtering, you might have email filtering, okay, you might have what's called like Edge AV that might run on your threat management gateway.
Also known as a firewall.
My firewall,
right.
Which there's a difference between the firewall that you get at the local big box store and a firewall that has integrated security functionality. Okay, so the one you get at the big box store is like the networking equivalent to antivirus. It's the lock on the front door, but it's not nearly enough. So the idea is you need to have multiple items because we want this stuff at the very outside and we're going to try to block everything we can. Well, let's say something gets past that. All right, well, now we got another level of security and we're going to, it's going to try to pick up anything that got to the first level. And then if it gets past all our other stuff, then we fall back to antivirus. But antivirus is like a last resort anymore.
Yeah.
You really want to stop this stuff before it even gets there in the first place.
Real quick on antivirus, Dave, there's two things we should point out, I think, on antivirus. There is set it and forget it antivirus. Okay. You set it up and it's supposed to be patching itself. That's not good enough, right? It doesn't always patch, and it's sometimes disabled by hackers. So it needs to be, well, actually there's three kinds really. So set it and forget it, and it does, and you think it's doing its job. Set it and monitor it, which is another one. It's not doing its job. Or set it, monitor it, and see if something unusual is going on by a third party.
Yeah.
And we got to move on to the other one. So be real quick.
Real quick. The idea is not all antiviruses and antivirus applications are created equal. In fact, we're currently in the process of moving most of our, we're beginning the process of moving most of our clients away from traditional antivirus and into more.
We'll keep it, but yeah.
It's something that has matured to the point now where there are even extra, like
people that are watching it all the time. So
exactly.
Dave, let me ask you this. Number two, okay? Here's the question you should ask, okay? People can skirt these questions. They skirt them to me all the time when I ask them. And I look at them and say, let's get serious, okay? And so I'm going to ask the question I would normally ask. And I'm going to give you the answer that I normally hear, okay? Do you have verified daily backups of your data? Do you test your backups monthly, okay? Oh, well, we restore files, regularly because, we have to recover files. That's not the same thing. Right, Dave?
Right.
I mean, a routine is what we're looking for here.
When you're talking about backups and disaster recovery scenarios, the key thing is to test it before you need it.
Oh.
Do not test it. Do not hope that it's going to work. Even if it has worked every time thus far, that doesn't mean that you can rely on it. You have to have a scheduled, documented, and reviewed approach to testing these things. Mm-hmm. You need to be testing, and it varies from place to place, okay? There's no one size fits all for this. It's more, are we going to virtualize our backups once a month, once a quarter, whatever you choose, make sure you do it.
Yeah, make sure it's validated and reported on. Look at a report.
Because at the
look
end
at the paper that says what's happened.
Yeah, and because here's the thing. Someday you're going to have a security incident. Everyone watching this is going to have a security incident someday. Or, even if you're just going to have a security incident.
I would not. I wouldn't mince some words with that. It's going to happen.
And so what's going to happen is you all of a sudden are going to get Monday morning quarterbacked. The minute that it happens. And if you say, "Oh, we tested our backups," can you show that you did that? Yeah. If you can't show that you did that, then you for all intents and purposes, you're not.
I walked into we do work with not just law firms, but I walked into to another type of office that wasn't a law firm, and they were still changing hard drives out on a regular and consistent basis, supposed to be doing it every day. And I said, we know it doesn't happen every day, let's be honest. Because it's about being truthful with yourself, right? And where you were is not where you need to go. Who cares about where you were? All we care about is fixing and moving forward. Right?
Exactly.
And so, Dave, real quick on the data backups, and I want to get moving because we've got about 10 minutes left. And so, data backups, also hackers destroy backups and adulterate backups so that when they encrypt all your stuff, you can't do anything. You can't go back to your backups. And so that's why you want to test them. It's one of those telltale signs that a hacker might be doing something. Okay.
And there, just so you know, there are technologies out there now in some backup systems where it will on its own every day go out and spin up your backups to test them and verify that they're going to boot up.
Yep.
And if for some reason it doesn't, it's going to say, hey, we have a problem here, which could be the first indication that you're ready to be hit with something.
And if you ask IT and they say, oh, we get reports daily, reports aren't good enough. Test. I want somebody to actually test it. Okay, Dave, number 3. Got the old list of questions here, by the way. Number 3, has your IT team or company talked to you about putting together a formal written multi-step process for securing your network and recovering from a ransomware attack? Dave, I'm going to let you handle this. This is your area right here. It's a plan, a process.
So let's talk about what this question is and is not, and who's responsible for what. Mm-hmm. The question we're asking here, very intentionally, is limited towards ransomware. Okay, and it is because it is the number one risk out there right now. Yeah, it's the one that practically we see. I mean, it's really what we see.
Colonial hit Kaseya, hit the meat packers. I mean, it hits everything.
And so, when it comes to ransomware, your IT company, your managed service provider needs to have an idea as to what they would do when this happens. And when I say an idea, they need to be able to tell you, here's what we're going to do.
But are they qualified? I mean, that I want to go back to that real quick. I mean, is an IT department qualified to put the plan of attack together on this?
So let's talk. And what I want to make sure that I'm clear on here is we're limiting ourselves to ransomware. Okay. We're not talking about overall security incident response planning.
All right. So we're just talking about the technical parts of a ransomware.
Correct. Because this is the thing. And Jim, it's such a great question. You don't delegate risk management and business decisions to your IT department. You just don't. Mm-hmm. That's something that has to be made at the executive level, as to say, because you can't avoid all risks.
Heck, for that matter, what decisions need to be made and when by who? Because it's not a matter of just recovering. You might have to get hold of insurance. You might have to put
that onus is not on IT. Mm-hmm. That onus is on whether you've got an office manager, a director of operations. Maybe it's the managing partner or an executive committee, or maybe somebody dedicated to risk management. The thing is that when we're talking broad scope incident response planning, that's where all those things are laid out. Who makes these decisions? Mm-hmm. Instead of going, we just had a bad thing happen. What do we do? But the thing is that you should be able to go, you should be able to ask your IT, if we had ransomware, what are we going to do from a technical perspective?
They're definitely part of the process.
Absolutely. Definitely. And when it comes to technical controls and technical response, your IT department, whether internal or outsourced, they're going to be right in the middle of this without question. They're going to be driving huge steps here. But if they're not the end all be all when it comes to this, there's responsibility that comes back on the executive committee and whatnot. So I don't want to paint a picture here with this one that IT has to make all this happen.
Let me put it in terms again, and I love analogies, right? Mm-hmm. We don't go into a football game or a baseball game or a basketball game without a plan.
Right.
Yes, the quarterback knows. We're talking about the play that the quarterback is going to run, okay? And the IT department might be the quarterback, right? They may be in certain aspects of it, but the play is given to them and developed with them. They don't come up with it. So if your IT company isn't talking to you about a plan and a multi-step process, then definitely bring that question up and say, we need, tell me about this. What can we do?
And I want to take that analogy just one
Yeah,
hair further here. Okay. Even if we're going to assume IT is the quarterback in a ransomware scenario, that quarterback listens to the coach.
That's it.
That coach listens to the head coach. That coach listens to the front office ultimately.
Right.
And these coaches are not making
coordinator, offensive coordinators.
And none of these coaches are making it up as they go. They're drawing off what's worked and failed in their past and other coaches.
Yep. Game film they've watched. Yep.
If there's an IT group or any group out there that goes, oh, I know it all. And I'm not, no, you got to draw on the resources of the community. So there's no isolation here.
Well, we're a minute over. We had 2 more questions, so we're going to have to hammer through them. Okay, but this is a very valuable thing for people. Okay, so here's one. Have your IT department talk to you about locking down. Get a little feedback there. Locking down. Dave, I'm going to mute you. Is that good? Okay, so has your IT department talked to you about locking down your attorneys and staff's workstations so that they can't install programs or download files accidentally from the internet by email or directly going to a website and thereby compromising your networks? That's an important question. Why, Dave?
Because, if you don't have locks in place, if you don't have restrictions in place up front that they can show, you're just leaving windows open unnecessarily.
It's exactly right. I was going to go back to the house again. You might have the door lock, but do you have the deadbolt? Do you have window locks? Right. Do you have the bar that you put on the sliding glass door? Right. Mm-hmm. Those are the types of things. I mean, you can put all the protections in place, but really seriously, if somebody just cracks the door with the chain on it, it can be kicked in, right?
Exactly.
And so you need to. This is more of a end users. End users are the target, always the target. They're the number one target. And so preventing them from downloading files and accessing applications that can compromise it goes hand in hand.
It's just one more layer.
It goes hand in hand with education at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. So education is important, but trust and verify. Right. All right, Dave, big one right here. Has your IT company team talked to you about having a qualified third party audit your security protocols and systems? And this is what we do from a data risk and compliance perspective.
So, and this is the whole fox in the hen house mentality. Okay. If you ask your IT resources if they're doing a good job, they're probably not going to come back to you and say, no, we suck.
No, I mean, nobody would, right?
First of all, and that's not because they're lying. That's not because they're trying to be evasive. It's because when you go in and say, well, I should have X, Y, and Z, I'm going to go put in X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
Well, you think you did because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
The value in having a third party come in is it brings a fresh set of eyes and says, that's awesome that you have X, Y, and Z. But do you have 1, 2, and 3?
And there are a lot of compliances and standards out there that actually dictate this, that many people, including IT, don't necessarily know about.
Right. And so there's a huge value, and it's not just, and I want to make sure that this is geared more towards any of our folks that are IT folks watching this. It's not meant to be a threat. Having somebody come in from the outside is not meant to be a threat. It is because just like no one technology can solve everything and no one football coach knows all the plays and all the strategies, no one group of IT knows all the vectors.
Well, it's even easier to parallel to another department of business, Dave. Okay. That department is accounting, right? Your bookkeepers, your CFOs, do they get offended when a CPA, outsourced CPA, wants to help audit the book and check the books to make sure that everything is going in the direction that it needs to go in? They don't get offended.
It's the idea that, it's whether or not they're a risk to your job, and it's how you view it. They're there to help you. They're there to help improve. And no, generally the CFOs wants that outside validation.
And it actually helps people move the ball forward also. So if IT is actually trying to push an initiative, it helps for them to get somebody behind them, a third party.
You better believe it. Because I can't tell you how many times we go and we talk to IT and they're like, we've been saying this for years. They need to do this.
Yeah.
But it takes someone from the outside coming and saying, no, you really need to do this.
And most of your IT professionals in your businesses know much of this already. We're preaching to the choir, and really we're lobbying for them here. It is what we're doing. And so, it's important to have third parties look at this too. So look, I'm going to take this and we'll put some other tips on here. These are just some of the top 5s that we thought were really important to talk about. But I'll put a link to this in the comments of all the various places we post to, and also on our podcast. So Dave, I'm going to go ahead and pop this up on the screen. If you're not a member of No Law Firm Left Behind on LinkedIn, this is where we post most of our stuff, as well as our YouTube channel, but you can find the YouTube channel from here. If you're not a member of No Law Firm Left Behind on LinkedIn, this is our group. Again, don't try to copy this down and write it down, take a picture of it, or just go to LinkedIn and search No Law Firm Left Behind. Heck, you could probably search it on Google by now. And you'll find the group. Just ask to be a member. It's a very exclusive group. We're here Tuesdays at 10:30 Eastern. And talking about topics that are very important to your law firm in security, technology, marketing, business, so on and so forth. So, Dave, I think this is a really important topic. I think we hit all the marks really well. If anyone has any questions, post them on the comments and chats on the various places, and we'll see them. So, Dave, thanks a lot. I really appreciate the input on this.
Great.
Everyone, we'll see you next week.
Take care.
Take care.